King Baby and Their Royal Servants, Mom and Dad. This is a story from a couple months ago that happened to me while working, and oh boy is it a... I work in a local bakery sandwich shop, and we once had a couple bring in their baby. Most people will either bring a stroller or just hold their baby while they eat because we do have any. But instead of doing that, they spent the entire time, around 20 mins, following the baby around the shop, while carrying their plates of food with them instead of sitting down. The baby was other guests' tables as they were eating, and the parents just stood and watched as the people eating were looking at them confused and annoyed. It's important to note that at the time it was only me and two other people working. My boss was the only baker, so he was busy making dough, and my other was taking lunch, so the only person who was watching this happen was me. Back to the story, eventually the baby made its way over to the front door, and instead of picking the baby up, the parents opened the door to let the baby crawl outside and towards the road, and only stopped it when it was crawling off the curb into the road. They then to follow it down the sidewalk out of sight of the windows, all the while still holding and eating their plates of food. That was bad enough, but what happened next was just gross. We have a display filled with, including a bunch of coffee cups in boxes. After eventually bringing the baby inside, it crawled right up to the display and grabbed one of the boxes. The parents did actually take it from the baby, but instead of putting it back, they carefully opened the box, took the paper padding out of the box, took the cup out, then gave it to the baby, at which point the baby started licking all over the cup and putting it in his mouth. I was genuinely dumbfounded and just watched as the parents proceeded to put the cup back in the box, put the paper back in the box, close the box, and put it back on the display with the rest of the cups. They put an unwashed, dirty, slobbery, baby spit-covered cup back into the box and put it on the shelf for some poor, unsuspecting soul to buy and use. They did not even mention the dirty cup, just silently put it back on the shelf. I immediately told my boss about what I saw, and him being the always seeing the best in people person that he is, could not somebody would do something so stupid and unhygienic, asking if I was sure I saw it correctly. That was until he walked over to the front and saw what was happening himself. Some more context. We had a broken espresso machine my boss was trying to fix for use in the bakery. Due to the small size of the building, we didn't have enough counter space for him to work on it in the back, so he opted to use one of the tables in the front of the restaurant as a workbench. Whenever we opened, he just put the espresso machine and tools into a box and set them in the corner against the wall where they were less noticeable, and put a paper note on it saying not to touch it. If you ever opened up an espresso machine, then you know that there are a lot of metal, delicate circuitry, and wires inside. So imagine his when he looks into the dining area to see a baby chewing on some exposed wires of said espresso machine, while the parents just watched. He immediately walked over and told them they could not stay if they could not control their child in about the most polite a way possible. To their credit, they did stop the baby from chewing on the wires and apologized. The baby didn't damage it or get hurt, luckily. My boss didn't kick them out because he only saw the baby chewing wires and didn't want to make a scene as they were finishing their food already. I am sure he regretted that decision when he returned to behind the counter and turned around to see, as both me and him were watching in plain view, the mom take a different cup off the shelf, open it, and give it to the baby, who immediately began licking it again. The look on my boss's face could only be described as a mix of disgust, confusion, and all at once. My boss didn't even react at first and just watched for what felt like hours, but was in reality only a couple seconds before the mom once again put the cup back in the box and put it back on the shelf. I never seen my boss look so defeated in his life as that moment. He immediately walked over, took the cup off the shelf, and told them they had to pay for it. The parents both laughed and asked if he was joking, as though we didn't just see a baby treat it like it was a... They did end up paying for it, but the entire time they were being rung up, the mom kept asking why it was such a big deal, while the father just stared daggers at my boss. They left immediately after with no other issues, leaving both me and my boss absolutely bewildered. It was only then that I remember that that was the only cup the baby was allowed to defile, so I quickly grabbed the box and gave it to my boss, who immediately turned around and tossed it in the garbage without a word. Since then they have not returned, but we did notice a couple days later that there was a 1-star review posted the same day that simply read, "Not child."
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos like this.